Somalia, aid, control, and the quest for true sovereignty. Somalia, a land rich in culture and fierce resilience, has been the world's longest-running experiment in international intervention. For over 3 decades, the UN has dominated Somalia's politics, aid, and security. But ask yourself, is the UN here to help, or to control? Today, Somalia ranks among the world's most externally managed nations. Over 2/3 of Somalia's national budget depends on foreign donors, that's more than 67%. And the UN? It manages and allocates most humanitarian aid, calling the shots on how funds get spent, not Somali officials. In some years, more than $1.3 billion in aid flows into Somalia, yet Somali ministries barely hold the purse strings. In 2024, just 13% of humanitarian aid passed through Somalia's own government. The rest? Locked in UN and NGO hands. Remember ANUSM 2? That 1993-95 military mission. It was supposed to enforce peace, but it turned deadly. Instead of peace, thousands of Somalis died in brutal city fights. Mogadishu became a war zone. UN commanders later admitted the famine was exaggerated to justify the mission. Somalia was a testing ground for post-Cold War military ideas. When the UN withdrew, African Union missions backed by the UN took over. The cycle keeps spinning. Here's a kicker: through agencies like UNDP, UNICEF, WFP, and OCHA, the UN controls aid flows, policy design, program implementation, even hiring. Often, UN agencies bypass Somali government institutions, hiring their own staff and setting priorities without local input. In some regions, the UN even manages national education and health sector plans, not the Somali authorities. Prime Minister Abdiweli Mohamed Ali accused the UN of hoarding aid during famine, undermining Somali ministries. Audits reveal millions in aid money mismanaged, with minimal transparency from UN bodies on spending. Today, the UN runs Somalia's humanitarian efforts through clusters, groups led by UN agencies, often excluding Somali leadership. Since 1992, Somalia's lived with a UN arms embargo. It was meant to disarm militants but ended up stopping the government from defending itself. Who filled the gap? Al-Shabaab, the militant group that thrives in the vacuum left behind. Somalia is labeled a threat to international peace and security, a status giving the UN Security Council control over critical sovereignty decisions. This means control over who imports arms, flies into the country, or receives aid, decisions made far from Mogadishu. Some Somali officials call this a de facto trusteeship, where sovereignty is more illusion than reality. In 2023, Somalia received over $2 billion in international aid, but over 70% was spent outside the country on foreign staff and overhead. Somali economists call this the fly-in, fly-out model, where aid rarely reaches Somali soil. This aid setup distorts the local economy. Farmers get pushed out by free food shipments flooding markets. Government budgets lean on donor grants, not taxes, fostering corruption and weakening accountability to the people. This system creates elites dependent on donor contracts rather than public support, a recipe for fragility. Through it all, Somali voices have spoken loud and clear, from past leaders to today's activists. They say Somalia cannot be run from abroad, and international partners must support, not substitute. Yet, the UN keeps calling the shots, shaping aid, security, and political frameworks with little local ownership. For Somalia to stabilize, It's simple, power must move back to Somali hands, truly and fully. Somalia needs support, not control. If you believe in African-led solutions and sovereign futures, like, share, and subscribe.